with the war in Ukraine, the Hermit Kingdom hasn't gotten a lot of attention. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention at all. But we should be paying attention because a humanitarian disaster might be about to basically unfold in North Korea. So North Korea, for the past 2 years, 3 years almost, has basically had a no COVID policy, zero COVID policy, extremely restrictive border controls, doing everything they can to stop COVID from getting into North Korea. And up to this point, they basically said, oh, we've had basically no cases. And we didn't know how honest they were being about that, because it is true that it is very difficult to get into North Korea in the first place. Could it be true that they actually have zero COVID cases in North Korea, or very, very little COVID cases in North Korea? Now, the reason why they took such a harsh approach isn't just an attribute of their authoritarian style of government, which North Korea, of course, is famous for, but it is also due to the fact that North Korea just simply does not have the medical infrastructure to deal with a COVID outbreak. They don't have the vaccines. They don't have the testing kits. They don't have the medical facilities. They don't have the treatment in place. They probably just don't even have the hospital beds. They just don't have what's necessary to deal with the COVID outbreak. And so if a COVID outbreak was to happen in North Korea, which already has an extremely malnourished, a higher on average malnourished population in comparison to other countries, definitely its southern neighbor, which has almost double the population, it would be a complete disaster. Because if you're malnourished, if you already have that issue with yourself, that you aren't properly feeding yourself, you don't have your vitamins, you don't have all that, that pre-existing condition makes your odds of dying or having a severe reaction to COVID much higher. And so that's why, due to the fact they don't have the vaccines, they don't have the beds, they don't have the testing kits, they don't have the resources, they don't got the money, and they have a malnourished population, that's why they took a zero COVID policy approach, doing everything they can to not have COVID. Now, I thought that maybe over time they would develop some plan and then eventually try to return to whatever normalcy is in North Korea. And I even was thinking, like a few weeks ago, they had this military parade. We even played some of it on the stream. And I was thinking, man, that's a lot of people really tight packed. They must be really confident that there's not really a lot of COVID in Korea, or any COVID in Korea, in North Korea, that is. But now we're seeing that in North Korea, the North Korean government is coming out and admitting that COVID cases are surging in the country. And it's causing a crisis for the government, because the government isn't saying, oh, this is a Western plot, this is this is that. Kim Jong-Un is just straight up coming out and saying, it's the government's fault. And he's blaming officials. He called an emergency Politburo meeting to do this. He's mobilizing the military to try to help encourage the medical response, to respond to the crisis that is happening. So let's read a little bit of the article, because he's dropping the ball. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un berated officials for delays in pandemic response and mobilized the country's military to fight the nationwide coronavirus outbreak that is one of the toughest challenges to his rule. I think that'd be the first time that military has won a war in, its entire existence. For the first time since the coronavirus pandemic began sweeping the world in early 2020, Pyongyang admitted last week that the country is facing an explosive spread of the virus, a concerning development for the largely unvaccinated country. They don't have the vaccines. And can I say, this is not only the fault of the government, who would much rather, funnel the money into weapons programs and the personal wealth of the Kim regime, but also they have been offered vaccines. They have been offered vaccines by COVAX. A lot of vaccines by COVAX that would vaccinate a significant portion of the population, which they could then direct towards the most vulnerable, malnourished part of the population, which you're going to see in the more rural communities in North Korea. But his regime purposefully rejected the COVAX aid because they knew that there was a chance it would come with monitors to make sure that the COVAX, vaccines were used properly, that the aid given to them by the United Nations COVAX program, which I'm a huge supporter of, would not be funneled out, sold away to other countries, sold away on the black market, and then boom, they funnel that money to the military to please the generals, or funnel that money to the Kim regime, because the Kim regime is largely enriched through things like hacking, cybercrime, heroin and drug dealing, etc. And so they knew that it would come with some monitoring, and they couldn't do that, and or maybe they were scared of monitoring from the West. And so the Kim regime purposely rejected a large, significant amount of COVAX vaccines that the population, which is largely unvaccinated, could use. He did that to protect his own rule, which I think is quite barbaric. North Korea's Central News Agency reported Monday that more than 1.2 million people fell ill with fever, of which 50 people have died since late April. Experts noted that North Korean authorities appear to use the word fever as a euphemism for COVID-19, as they probably lack the capacity for proper diagnosis because of a shortage of testing kits. Can I also mention when it comes to things like testing kits and medical equipment to deal with the virus, it's also been offered by the South Korean government after this announcement came out. And so far, the Kim regime has not responded to that offer of aid. Either they don't want to appeal weak on the international stage, or again, what we've already mentioned. Or maybe they don't want to humanize the South Korean regime and make it look like, hey, they're actually quite prosperous down there. But 1.2 million people. To be clear, that, if we go with the 25 million number of North Korean citizens, that's 0.4. That's almost 5% of the population. Almost 5% of the population have fever in North Korea. 4.8% if we wanted to be very specific. And 50 people have died. Now, remember, this is the Kim regime. This is what they're admitting to publicly, not only to their population, but to the world as well. Meaning, there's a very, very good chance that 1.2 million number is higher, and there's almost a guaranteed chance, definitely due to the fact that they don't have the testing kits, and they're probably not going out into the rural communities and finding out what everybody died from, that 50 number is almost certainly bogus, and it is much, 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 much higher. I do not buy the 50 number. I'm sorry, I don't trust the Kim regime's numbers. Lacking medical resources, the country of 25 million appear to be handling the surging number of patients, mostly by isolating them. Again, they don't have the equipment. More than 560,000 people with fever in North Korea are in quarantine, state media said Monday. That means almost 1 to 2% of the population. Since North Korea reported its first official coronavirus case Thursday, Kim locked down the country and ordered officials to absolutely curb the spread of the malicious virus. But his public health orders have not been followed by officials, he said Sunday. He's saying his officials are failing. I assume the reason why he's pinning this on his own government, on his own officials, is because it's gotten so bad, with over 1 million people having COVID, just by his own numbers, and people starting to die of it, most likely the number is much higher, and having such a significant amount of people who have to come out of the workforce and quarantine, which is probably terrible for the North Korean economy, which is already standing itself up on paper straws, for God's sakes. He has to pin the blame on somebody, and it obviously can't be his fault. He's the supreme leader. So, it has to be the government in some capacity, because it's not like they're an actual functioning democracy. And so he pins it on his own officials. And so he can look like the hero because he's the one going to the officials and saying, work harder, do it, I fight for the people. This is the angle, I assume, that's going on here. He strongly criticized the cabinet and public health sector for their irresponsible work attitude and organizing the executing ability, the KCNA reported Monday. During Sunday, Emergencies Politburo meeting, again, like I said they called, Kim condemned the slow spread of the medicine distribution to local pharmacies and ordered the National Army's medical unit to help stabilize medicine supply. They are deploying the military. After the meeting, Kim made visits to pharmacies in Pyongyang and lamented their poor situation that even lacked proper medicine storage. This talks about stuff we've already covered. Let's keep going. Now here it comes. North Korea has already rebuffed offers of millions. I didn't know it was millions. It's millions? And think, 1.2 million cases is what they've admitted to. And COVAX offered them millions of vaccines for a largely unvaccinated population. Meaning if they took those vaccines, they could have vaccinated like probably up to 10% to 11 to 12, who knows what level of percent of their population, right off of just the aid. Completely without government funding, and all they would need is monitors to make sure it goes swimmingly. But the monitors and that admission of weakness, that's too much for the Kim regime. And there's a decent chance that the Kim regime wanted to funnel the vaccines out to make more money for his corrupt regime. North Korea has not yet responded to offers of coronavirus aid from its rivals in South Korea, reported Seoul's Unification Ministry on Sunday. The ministry said Seoul is willing to provide the North with things that's vaccines, medicines, masks, and there's more vaccines, masks and diagnostic kits, and also share best practices for a pandemic response. According to O is reference to a public health official, said it will take at least a month for North Korea to receive the vaccines, distribute them in immune citizens. This is if he accepts the aid, for God's sakes. While the country urgently needs the immediate medical support, like antiviral treatments for patients already infected with the virus, given the country's poor infrastructure, and the COVID death toll in North Korea could surpass 34,000. So, ultimately, this is a failure of the Kim regime's autocratic style of government. This is a failure of the Kim regime's international isolation. This is a failure of the Kim regime's corruption. This is a failure of the Kim regime's inability to accept aid if it comes with monitoring, because they, again, want to make sure that it's not funneled for the military, which the generals, of course, love to funnel aid for the military, and of course, funneled for the Kim regime to continue to enrich themselves. This is the Kim regime choosing themselves first and their country second, and putting their whole country on the line to do it. In a crisis like this, which can bring the economy down to its knees due to the amount of people that need to, quarantine and get out of the labor force, on top of the health crisis, is something that could be really seen as a real crisis for the North Korean leadership. And if they don't manage it well, it'll only get worse if they don't manage it well from this point. And it seems that right now the Kim regime is playing the blame game. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. So we're going to have to wait to see how the Kim regime deals with this crisis. Oh, also, I do want to say, some people have asked, will this be the end of the Kim regime? The Kim regime has survived famines that have killed much more people than 34,000. I don't think this is going to be an end to the Kim regime. Could it? I mean, I guess possibly technically it could, but the odds are very low. The odds are much more in the favor of the Kim regime continuing to live in their autocratic, disgusting, fanatical lifestyle where they continue to gouge themselves as their population starves and dies from the flu. What is the odds Kim is vaxxed? 100% Kim Jong-Un is vaxxed. Not even a question. Could be destabilizing, but I doubt that'll be enough. Yeah, of course, it could always happen. But odds are that the Kim regime stays in power. That's always the case when situations like this happen. What? Wait, no, 100% Kim is vaxxed. How do you think you know that? Kim's vaxxed because he is the almighty supreme leader of North Korea, and he wants to protect himself. And he's somebody who has an obesity issue that many people know of. And if he has an obesity issue, that's a pre-existing condition that can worsen the effects of COVID. So he's probably somebody who cares a lot about his own protection. I mean, he's a guy who literally will not, when he travels, just use a public restroom or any other restroom. He has his own private bathroom, so his own staff can take his feces and bring it back, because they don't want foreign agents to get his feces so they can analyze what diseases he has or his DNA. And you don't think that person, that concerned with his own safety, that concerned with his own privacy and medical health and restricting that data and protecting his health, isn't going to be vaccinated? The only good counter argument is he's not concerned enough with his health to put down the donuts, and that is fair. But he has lost some weight, and good for him on that, I guess. What other assumptions do you make? Yes, I make the assumption that dictators care only about themselves. Yes, I do that. I'm very sorry that this dictator cares very, very much only about himself. Yes. I'm sorry that I'm being too anti-Kim Jong-Un today. If I have a pro-Kim Jong-Un audience in my chat today, I'm very sorry. I apologize. Once they collect the poop, what do they do with it? They probably burn it or something. They dispose of it in a way that people can't collect the data. Apology accepted. Thank goodness. Good short segment. God, what do you guys... Okay, can I ask you guys a question? I know a lot of people, actually. North Korea military march. Do you guys, when it comes to these marches, you know, do you guys think they're cool, based, not based? What do you guys think? Their most recent military parade was actually during nighttime, which was very interesting. Look at this nice super spreader event. Do you think they're cool? Unironically, if we could have these in America, would you want them? No? I do dig their style of accent, so dramatic. They aren't even smiling, no. Jesus, why is this slowed down and reverbed? Jesus. The camera angles. Military parades reek of insecurity. I'm not against all military parades, but there's like a certain type of military parade that is just associated with like authoritarianism. Whoa, wait. That I've seen him in a lot of outfits. Dude, that's so much more drippy than what he usually has wearing. Why does he only wear this every once in a while? That outfit's so much better on him than his usual just like black attire. The dogs! Oh, dude, I couldn't imagine being a dog in North Korea. What a sad existence. Wait, what's this? Paratroopers in illuminated jumpsuits dropped from aircraft in the sky. What? 초당 75m 속도로 멋있게 통과했습니다. 김일성 광장의 밤하늘을 Okay, that's kind of cool. 장식하고 있습니다. That's cool. 이는 여기 김일성 광장에 승리의 깃발이 나부릅니다. 세상에서 제일 눈부시고 아름다운 우리의 공화국기. 종합군악대가 위풍당당히 열병광장으로 들어서고 있습니다. Look, is that two pistols? There's the shapes. Why don't we do that? I don't know. I guess like America is just very much like. I think it's about the United States military. Is when Trump. Remember when Trump wanted the military parade and it got canceled and all that and it was very sad. The thing is, like, I feel like the United States is very much just like, look, we have the most powerful military on the planet. This isn't a debatable issue. We don't need to have parades to brag about it. You want a parade? Have you seen an American military parade before? Do you want to know what they look like? They're very simplistic, and they're very much. It feels like they're very much more for actually like, hey, support the troops, and not the glory of the state. They're very much more like, here's the veterans of the 5th Brigade, and then everybody claps because, hey, I love the 5th Brigade, hey, daddy, and then the dad waves at a daughter. That's what it feels more like. One second. American military parade. Very, very simplistic in comparison. No big kicks or anything, just basically just simple walking. Ours is a lot more simplistic, man. And it's crazy because, like, if you put the American and North Korean military up against one another, like, North Korea's military would, like, it's just, there's just no comparison. It's complete trash in comparison. Not even comparable. You thought the Russian invasion of Ukraine was mismanaged? My God. Imagine, like, North Korea actually having to, like, fight in open combat with American troops. I mean, like, for real, when you think about Trump's, not Trump, but Putin's regime and how bad that invasion went, imagine that, but with the North Korean outdated equipment and oh my God. Remember, dude, you thought the Russians had bad logistics? You thought the Russians had bad logistics when it came to things like rations? Oh my God. Imagine the food supply lines for North Korean troops. Absolute disaster. Isn't there an old movie as North Korea invading America as a plot? Yes, that is Red Dawn. So Red Dawn used to be about the Soviet Union invading America, but they made a modern version of it. They also made a video game version of this, I believe. And it would have originally, it was supposed to be China, but then they rewrote it to be North Korea because they wanted it to be available to the Chinese market. But then the Chinese market rejected it anyway. So they should have just made it China because it would have been much more believable. But North Korea invades America. What a ridiculous concept. Yeah, there's this thing in Homefront. Homefront, it was in that, and it was in this Red Dawn movie clip. Look at this. Look at this ridiculous nonsense.
What's going on?
Like, dude, how did they get the planes to America? How? How did they manage a refueling effort like that? How even? How are these troops going to be supported by landing craft? How did they? There's a whole Pacific Fleet, dog. How? Dude, did they even have those many planes? I don't even think that you have those many planes of that capacity to drop paratroopers. That might, if that is, that's literally every single plane that they have to drop paratroopers is on screen literally right now. All in the same exact spot. By the way, Here's the thing about the North Korean military. They have such terrible fuel issues that they can't even properly train their troops on a consistent basis to fly their jets. And somehow they manage a refueling effort all the way to the United States. I'm sorry, dude. I don't believe you. Carrying payloads of troops, it just doesn't make sense. Oh, you're right. That's Josh from Drake and Josh. Oh, I forgot Drake and Josh became an anti-communist freedom fighter. I forgot about that.
My dad, come on.
Drake gave our coordinates to the commies. He's a traitor. He's the leader of New Red America. Josh, you need to take him down. All this to capture Spokane, Washington. True.
I got no reception. Try the radio. What is this? I don't know.
It's terrible. And then there's this for the video game.
The torpedo that sunk the Jong-Un and took the lives of 46 South Korean sailors was fired by a North Korean submarine.
North Korea's weapons program continues to intensify. Now surpassed 1,000 missiles.
Global leaders expressed concern over North Korea's latest atomic test.
Kim Jong-il's government strongly defended its recent atomic test as a rightful response to Western aggression. The president appeared at the UN to call for severe sanctions against North Korea.
Is this game any good, this Homefront? I know there's another game that I think was more like China Invades. I forget what it was called, that I heard was a little bit better or something. Was Homefront any good?
This morning comes the news of Kim Jong-il's death. North Koreans greet their new supreme leader, Kim Jong-il's son, Kim Jong-Un.
That is the worst Kim Jong-un. Do you know how many Kim Jong-un impressionists there are that look really, really good? Like, that is the worst looking Kim Jong-un I've ever seen in my fucking life. Look at, like, Kim Jong-un impressionist. Kim Jong-un impressionist. There, a million of these guys exist, and they're so good. Like, look at this. Look at this guy. Look how good this guy looks next to this shitty version of Trump. Look at, he looks, if he legitimately walked in with, like, guard, it wouldn't be that hard for me to believe this is actually Kim Jong-un. Like, this is so much better. It's not even a contest, man. It's not even a contest. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. That's so angering. Why? Man, they're not even giving good impressionist jobs. I mean, he doesn't even look like the guy they just showed. He doesn't even... whatever.
Kim Jong-un.
우리 공화국의 통일은 남한과의 한민족을 갖고 올 것이며 경제와 산업의 발전을 갖고 올 것입니다.
Today, our beloved leader, Kim Jong-un, has united North and South Korea, forming the Greater Korean Republic.
Talks to end the Saudi-Iran war have stalemated once again. Meanwhile, damaged oil wells...
Saudi... Well, this is a weird timeline. I didn't even explain how he united Korea. Whatever.
...and pipelines burn uncontrollably, deeply affecting world supplies.
Although costs at the pump are ready to break the dreaded $20 ceiling...
The only good communist is a dead communist!
What a silly game.
As the nation's civil unrest has intensified with the demise of the U.S. dollar.
This is not a retreat, nor are we abandoning our Asian allies.
Under threat of annihilation by the Greater Korean Republic, Japan has surrendered.
What?
Hours after the president ordered a freeze on bank withdrawals.
We don't know where we will get our next meal from.
There's Asian bird flu.
The Mexican government has imposed strict immigration quotas, effectively closing its borders to American refugees.
Aha, the irony.
Korea's annexation continues to spread despite the...
Korea just annexes Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. It's just everything.
Today, the Greater Korean Republic launched their latest communication satellite, claiming it will bring a message of peace to the entire world.
Of course. Take the Midwest? How? Irradiated Mississippi? Where did that come from? And then the game starts.
It's another beautiful day in the Colorado territories with highs in the mid to upper 50s and strong winds expected from the east. The days are getting shorter, and every citizen of the Montrose Partnership is reminded that curfew has been moved up to 1800 hours. Early to bed, early to rise.
Robert Jacobs?
Music that makes your workday float with
Is
efficient
this the home of
cooperation.
Robert Jacobs? Against the wall! Robert Jacobs.
Okay, it's just like this, right? It's just like, then it's like you resist, right? That's the idea. And it's like terrible and whatever. It just doesn't make any, it's like, just do China. Just do China, man. Just do China. It's not that difficult. Like, come on, we all know if, look, this is already just like completely insane. Just make it China. Like, that's never gonna happen. America is like an impossible country to invade. You're just making it fun, but just make it China so it's at least somewhat believable. I can't. This would be like Luxembourg has taken Berlin. They are establishing the Luxembourg Reich. It's like at that point that's what you're doing. You're just doing. It's almost like comical. You're doing it to become comical, but then the game takes itself so seriously. Like, if you're going to do this and make this scenario where somehow Kim Jong-Un united North and South Korea, then took Indonesia, Japan, Brunei, Malaysia, like all these places, Myanmar, I assume, yeah? And then took Hawaii and all the South Islands and take San Francisco in the Midwest, all of it. Like, it's just too out there. At that point, it's a joke to me. If you're going to make it that joke, then make it a joke. But then it tries to take itself so seriously. Like, look at this.
You pilot too. They're rounding us all up for some reason.
Listen to the women crying and stuff in the background.
I'll never see them again.
Boom! Executing civilians and stuff. Like, you can't take itself... Like, just make it China. Just make it China. But then they're, like, too scared to make it China because they want access to the Chinese gaming markets. Fucking pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Just make it China. Vietnam's communist scourge united all the workers of Eurasia and the USA is free and lost world. So, yeah. Greater Swiss Empire finishes its conquest of the European and African front. Is Asia next? It's so ridiculous, man. Oh my god. Okay, that's enough of that.